Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Grayboardgamer here with the beginning of my Myth playthrough. The first thing I want to do before we start is draw the starting hands of each of our heroes. We'll start with the soldier, and each character draws 5 cards from their deck to start. We'll take a quick look at each of them. I'm not going to go into real detail right now as to what each of these does, because they'll make much more sense in the context of gameplay when we're actually playing, but we'll just quickly show what the starting hands are. And our soldier has got the Hidden Blade, and this card can be played as an action, which is the top arrow, or a reaction, which is the bottom arrow. And that's important because you can only do one action per round, but you can do any number of reactions, and that can be very useful to use this as a reaction instead of an action. And then you'll see this area here in the bottom right. Each of these areas that is red is how many action points will get applied to the darkness board. So we have to keep track of that too, and make sure we are efficient in our use of our cards and staying away from reaching 6 on the darkness board too quick, because that activates the darkness and we have to draw a card. Also, on the left of the card, you'll see the different movement types. You have no movement, half movement or cautious movement, regular, and then aggressive movement. If it's grayed out, that means that this card, for example, the Hidden Blade here, cannot be played if you do anything other than stand still or do half of your movement. If you do regular or aggressive, you cannot play this card. And that's where let me grab one of these real quick. These movement trackers that I have tucked under each of my boards is going to come in very handy, because often the hero phase can go for a while and it may get interrupted by the darkness, and then you're right back into your hero phase and you forgot what movement you did. So using those cards are going to help me minimize my mistakes. So she has the Hidden Blade, which is an attack card. Battle Rage. This is an interrupt. It has the arrow with that little burst on it. And these get played during the darkness phase. So these you hold on to, if you can, if they're in your hand, and use them to help counteract some of the effects of the darkness phase when it does occur. And these, you're standing still when you're doing them. For the most part, there are a few that allow you to move, but that's why you'll see you're not really moving during the darkness phase. And then Sprint, which allows you more movement points. And of course, you're only going to play that on the aggressive side because it's going to make you move more than your normal movement. And this is an action that costs 1 AP. Here is our attack. It can be used in any way, and it's also an action. And again, like I said before, you can only do one action per round. And then Battle Roar, and this is something that helps all the heroes on the tile, and this doesn't cost us anything, and it's a reaction, so we don't have to worry about it costing points. Those are the first 5 cards for our soldier. We'll grab our cards for our Acolyte. And again, I got 1 name submission so far for the soldier, and I'll start using that unless I get others. But if anybody has any names for the other characters, our Acolyte or our Apprentice, let me know, and I'll use those instead of just calling them the generic name of Soldier, Acolyte, and Apprentice throughout the game. And the Acolyte has the Pray card, which can help him build up his faith. And faith is important for the Acolyte because faith allows him to do extra things with his particular cards. And if we come across one, I'll show you what I mean. He also has Smite, which is an attack card for him. The Dirge of Twilight, also an attack card that causes a lot more damage than the average attack card. And Hustle, which will help him gain more movement points if necessary. And stand fast. Grants all heroes -1 TN, which is target number. And again, I don't want to really explain that too much until we get into the context of the game. But that's a card to help other heroes on the tile. And finally, we have the Apprentice. And our Apprentice has Arcane Lance, which is an attack card that does 2 damage. It's got a pretty good range of 4 on it. And you can see, depending on what you do with some of the cards, for example here on Arcane Lance, if she doesn't move and she casts it, it's -1 target number, which makes it easier to hit the target. Or if she's moving, then it's going to add 1 to the target number and make it more difficult. So casting a spell on the move makes it more difficult. Arcane Sigil. This is a healing spell. When here within range, may clear curse status effects. So that's if we ever get cursed, which can happen. And Blink, which is a teleport. This allows the Apprentice to move without it actually being a move. See, this is not considered a move. So this can help her get out of trouble if she gets surrounded, especially since she's our character with the lowest health. The Sphere's Deflection. This helps keep incoming ranged attacks away from the caster and anyone within range of her, which is a range of 2. It doesn't stop them automatically, but it makes it harder for the enemies to attack. And then we have her generic attack card, which allows her to attack 1 target within range of her weapon. And in her case, her weapon is the Enchanted Twig, which has a range of 3, so she can hit targets up to 3 away. We know the character's starting hands. We're ready to start on this first tile of Act 1 here. So let's go ahead and dive into the narrative and see what the situation is, why we're walking down this path, and just generally what's going on. The foundations of the world. You are sitting at the bar in the Five Strangers when you are firmly and completely put on your butt. Rolling waves of wood and earth begin to toss you about the place. The crack and boom of stone breaking echo underfoot. The walls and roof collapse. The earthquake continues for a bit more than stops. From all around you, the clear ringing of bells signal that others in the area have been hit just as hard as you. Act 1. A mountain moves. Marcus comes running up, buckling on his weapons belt, bellowing. A mountain has sprung up near Brackenburg, and they say it moves. Head up the north road, then take Tanner's Pike and check on any villages along the way. I'll head east and do the same. He smiles. We'll meet at Brackenburg and climb a mountain. Ha! He's off before you have a chance to ask him how he knew what was happening elsewhere. And you swear, he was yodeling. So apparently something really strange is occurring with all these earthquakes, and we're not exactly sure what's going on, but we have Marcus, our friend, telling us to meet him up ahead, so we need to get there and help anybody we find along the way. I have to also pay attention. Not only do we have all of these shamblers on the tile with us, but we have this poison dart trap. And the poison dart trap activates during the refresh phase, and I'll let you know when we get to the refresh phase. And during the refresh phase, any of our heroes that are within 3 squares, diagonally or orthogonally, are automatically hit by the poison dart trap, and they'll take 1 damage and get the poison status effect. So what we need to do is try and clear a path through these shamblers to the poison dart trap without getting within 3 of it. That way we can run up to it before the refresh phase in a particular round and try and deactivate it, so none of us end up taking any wounds and or contract poison of any kind. We start off here in the hero cycle. We can go in any order we want. The game begins here in the hero cycle, which allows us to use our movement points to move or interact with an object with a non-combat action. Also, we can play cards, and we can do this in any order that we want to, which means we get to choose which order we're going to go in. So I want to look over the hand of cards that I have for each player and come up with a strategy as to what I want to do. And again, this row right here with these two shamblers going all the way across is within 3. So we could, basically we only want to move forward one more square and try and stay there to do all of our actions to try and take care of these shamblers. Because again, if we move within 3 and we get stuck within 3 during that refresh phase, we're going to get hit. So I'm going to take a look at my cards and come up with a plan of action. The first thing I'm going to do is have the Acolyte play Stand Fast. And whenever you play a card, you put it into the action space, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But with Stand Fast, it grants all heroes -1 target number to their courage tests. We don't have any creatures that are on this board that we have to do a courage test on, so that's okay. We're not going to use that aspect of the card. But it also gives us +1 D10 to hero attack actions during this turn. And this is a reaction, so he still has the ability to play an action, and as you can see, it doesn't cost any AP, no action points, so it's not going to move the darkness tracker. And when you play cards, they go in each of these 4 action slots that you see here underneath the player board. If those action slots are full, then you can't play any more cards until a refresh phase comes along, and then those cards will get removed and sent to the discard pile, and then you'll have a chance to play more cards. But for now, he has plenty of room, as do all the other characters underneath their action boards. Also on that Stand Fast card, you can see that there is only one type of movement, and that is no movement, which makes sense. The card is called Stand Fast. So any other cards I play have to have the ability to be played with no movement. And I can't play any cards that must be played with any other type of movement during this hero cycle, since I played Stand Fast. Also, you can see there is a bold keyword of faith on that card, which means when I play this, I get an additional faith. The Acolyte has 1 base faith on his hero token, and now with Stand Fast he has 2 faith. So when you see the other cards in the future that show that you get modifiers according to how many faith you have at that time, in this case I would have 2 at this moment. Next I'm going to play the Soldier's Battle Roar card, which affects everyone on the tile. It gives all of us a -1 target number to hit with our attack actions. So as long as the action has the attack keyword on it, it means that we get -1 to our target number. And again, this one doesn't cost any AP. We're not going to move the darkness tracker, and it leaves the soldier open for any type of movement during this hero phase, since it's effective on all of them. And that is a reaction, so she is still allowed to do 1 action this hero cycle. I put that card under the board. I'm not going to keep moving back and forth to show the boards over and over again every time I put a card under them. If at any time it's important to show how many action cards are over there, then I'll definitely focus on it again. Now that Battle Roar has been played, we'll go ahead and move our soldier. She has a base movement of 2, so we'll move her 1, 2. Sorry about that, Acolyte. And she is going to play her attack card and attack that shambler that is directly in front of her. She moved twice, which is her normal, which is allowed with this attack card. And this is an action, so this is the only action she can perform this hero cycle. And it's going to add our first action point to the darkness tracker. You also want to note the keywords on here: attack, melee, and shield. That means this is an attack, which means it will apply for our Stand Fast and our Battle Roar. It's a melee attack, which means we're going to use a weapon that is designated as a melee weapon, and I'll show you that in just a moment what we're going to use. Or we could use a shield to attack if we wanted to. In this case we're not. We're going to use our horrifying spear to do the attack. And I always do this right away before I actually do the actions on the card, so I don't forget to add action points to the darkness board. So our action points are now at 1. We know our soldier is attacking the shambler directly in front of her. Now we're going to build the dice pool. On her hero token, she gets 1 fate die and one 10-sided die for attacking. Now she's using the Horrifying Spear, which is a weapon and a melee attack, which is allowed with her attack action. And you can see on the card that it gives an additional 3d10 and an additional 3 fate dice whenever you use it as an attack. And it also has a special, which means that attacks also affect one target adjacent to the initial target. So I can hit the Shambler either to the side or the one behind, as long as it's adjacent. It can be diagonal too. Anything adjacent is either diagonal or orthogonal. And let's not forget, because of Stand Fast, this is an attack action, so we will get another additional d10. Now it's the Shambler that we are attacking, so we're going to need to roll a 4 or higher. But our target number is reduced by 1 because of the Battle Roar. So we really only need to roll a 3. We're going to roll all these dice at the same time. Now this attack does 1 damage, and you can see that the Shamblers only have 1 health point or 1 vitality each. So as long as we hit, that means we're going to take that Shambler out and 1 adjacent. So let's get all the dice together, and I'll explain the fate dice here in just a moment. Get a roll. And easily we got a 4, 5, and 8. All we need is one of them to be successful. So plenty of successes. We can see the various symbols on our fate dice here. And you can see on the fate dice, what we're trying to do is make this recipe on the Horrifying Spear. And you can see that on the Horrifying Spear card, we can deal 2 damage to 1 target within 4 squares if we were to roll a Rage symbol and a Guile symbol. That's what those 2 are. I don't have a Rage or a Guile symbol showing. If I did, then I would be in luck, because my Mantle of Fate allows me once per roll, I can make a fate die to any result. So at least if I would have had one of those, I could have changed one of them and came up with that recipe and used that special ability on the Horrifying Spear. We were able to take out this Shambler directly in front of us, and we were allowed to take out one adjacent to that one due to the special attack of the Horrifying Spear, and we'll take this one out directly behind that Shambler. Anytime you inflict damage, whatever the actual damage is, in this case it was 1 on the first Shambler and 1 on the second Shambler, so they're both taken out, so that was 2 total damage. I have to increase my threat by 1 for each damage that I do. I was only able to take out 2 with that attack. If I took out a third, if you take out 3 enemies or 3 minions in a single attack, you can take one of the treasures off the darkness board and lay it down where the third one was killed. Or if you destroy a lair or a captain or a mini boss, then you get a treasure just for one of those. You don't have to do 3, but 3 minions in a row with 1 single attack or more. If you're able to take out 6, then you would be able to do 2 treasures. Now I'm going to have our apprentice move 1, just 1 movement point, which is only half of her, so that she's done cautious movement. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to have her play her Sphere of Deflection. And that's an ongoing card, so it stays in play. Even when we clear cards away from underneath of our player boards, this one will stay in play. And I'm also going to play this underneath her Demon's Bane, because on the Demon's Bane you can play 1 ongoing card on that item, which will leave all 4 of her action spaces still open. So I'm going to play Sphere of Deflection, and that's why I moved, because it has a range of 2, which means now I'm within 2 of the other players here, so I don't have to worry about them being out of range. So I will protect them with the Sphere of Deflection. And this is a reaction, and again I can play that underneath my Demon's Bane. It does cost us 1 action point, so the darkness meter moves up to 2. I see that I made a mistake with the soldier. my Boots of Speed would have allowed me to roll another fate die. That's just something I get with an attack. But, lesson learned, I won't let that happen again. At least it's not at a crucial point where that would have won this game for us or not. So we'll go ahead and move on and use the attack ability of the Apprentice. She's going to use her attack card to take out the Shambler right in front of her there, just diagonally to her right. I would have liked to take a shot at one of those ranged ones, but other enemies block line of sight, so I don't have line of sight on any of the ranged creatures. And the way line of sight works is you draw a line, an imaginary line, between the center of where you're at and the center of the square that the target is on. And if anything is in your way that blocks line of sight that line runs through, then you can't use an attack on your target. Her attack is an action, which will be her action for this round, and it is going to cost us another tick on the darkness board, taking it up to 3. And for this attack action, we will build the dice pool for the Apprentice. She has her base of 1 fate die and 1 attack die. This is an attack, so she will get another 10-sided die for the attack thanks to Stand Fast. Again, we'll have to make note that the target number will get reduced by 1 because of the soldier's battle roar. Her enchanted twig gives her 1 additional 10-sided die. Her Demon's Bane is a focus, and in this case we don't get to use the Demon's Bane because this attack, as you can see on the attack card, is arcane. So we'd have to have something that worked with arcane. The Demon's Bane is a focus, so it's not going to help us with this attack, but her Ring of Neria gives us an additional fate die with an attack also. Her attack has a range of 3 thanks to the enchanted twig, but she's right next to them, so we don't need to worry. Our Shamblers again have a 4, and the target number is reduced by 1, so she needs to roll a 3 on 1 of these 10-sided die. A 3 or higher. And she's well within that. A 6, a 6, and a 0. And she rolled 2 darkness symbols, so she didn't make any of her fate die recipes. On the enchanted twig, it would take her threat down 1 if she had one of the arcane symbols, if that would have came up during her roll. The attack was successful, so that minion, that Shambler, is taken out. Because of the damage she did, her threat is now at 1. We're clearing some room for us here, but again, we can't really move forward because of this poison dart trap. And do I have any more cards I want to play this hero cycle, or do I want to go into the hero deck phase? It doesn't look like I have anything else that I want to play in my hand right now, or in my hands for any of my characters. That'll bring us to the end of the hero cycle. And at this point, if I had used 0 action points, if I caused no action points to be placed on the darkness board, I'd be considered loitering. And if you loiter, then you have to remove one of the treasures from the darkness board, so that's 1 less treasure that you have the potential to earn. And right now, I really don't have to worry about loitering too much because I only have 7 minions on the board, so at best I can only drop 2 treasures if I take out 2 groups of 3. So I have the ability to loiter if it's to my benefit right now, because I'm not going to be able to gain all 4 of the treasures that are on the darkness board. In the hero deck phase, you're going to reduce your threat according to how many empty spaces you have here under your unused action. For example, our soldier here has 2 that were not used, which means I can reduce my threat by 2. So I'll reduce down to 1 and then back down to 0. And then you'll clear your cards from the action spaces and add them to a discard pile. And we'll do the same for each of our other characters. Had 3 open spots, but the Acolyte did not have any threat. I can keep 1 card from each of my players' decks. You don't have to keep any, you can discard all of them, but you can keep one card before you draw back up to your hand size. And I think for the Apprentice, I'm going to keep Blink because it allows her to move without it costing her any movement points. Might be useful if I can clear a space over here around the poison dart trap. I could have her blink next to it and try and deactivate it. Our soldier, she has the Hidden Blade, Battle Rage, and Sprint. She has lots of movement cards, sprint and hustle cards in her deck, so I don't think I'm going to keep that. The Hidden Blade is a nice attack that can be played as a non-action. And then the Battle Rage Interrupt can make me pretty powerful, but we got pretty simple minions on this board. I think I'll keep the Hidden Blade with the soldier, that way I have an attack available. And our Acolyte didn't do a whole lot this time around. Again, movement cards. Prey. Prey is not real useful right now because I don't have a lot of faith cards in my discard pile. I could keep Smite or Dirge of Twilight. Dirge of Twilight does 3 damage. I don't need to do 3 damage to any of these minions. I think I'll keep Smite because it's an attack that can be used again as a reaction and saving my action for something else. So now I will go ahead and draw up to my hand size. So we'll start with the Apprentice, and I'll draw 4 cards. We have the Breath of Heroes. Each hero within range automatically passes all courage tests. A good card, but not necessary. We don't have anything crazy. The Fingers of Aya. This is the one I really want to hold on to. You can see it costs a lot and it's an action, but you can attack one target within a range of 3. For each ongoing card cleared, this attack also affects one additional target up to 2 squares away from the last effective target. So if I can build up a group of ongoing cards, this is basically chain lightning for anyone that's familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. I can attack one, and then for every ongoing card I clear, like the Sphere of Deflection that's underneath my Demon's Bane, if I can build up 2 or 3 ongoing cards and then wipe them out while playing the Fingers of Aya, then I can take out multiple, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 if I have a lot of ongoing cards available. So that's a good one. Research, excellent. That is an ongoing, so I can play that. Each hero within range may reroll 1d10 once per hero cycle. Very useful, and it's an ongoing. And this is a reaction, a counterattack, which is nice. If I have any of these minions that attack me, I can fight back in the darkness phase. So now we'll go ahead and draw the Acolyte. And right now I'm going quite slow and explaining things in detail. Later on in the game, I won't be as thorough for things that we've seen already. Like once we make it through each of the players' decks one time, unless it's a new card that we haven't played, when I play it I'll explain it. But if we've already seen them all by cycling through the decks, I don't need to keep talking about them in detail. I'll just tell you, hell, I have a Smite, a Sprint, and so on, and you'll know what's in my hand. So we have another Smite card, which we kept one of, and again, it can be used as a reaction, so we can use 2 in one round. We could move additionally if we need to. Blessings of the Dawn. Each hero within range gains a number of fate dice to attack actions equal to your faith. And again, this has a faith keyword, which would be in addition to his base. So that could come in very useful, and it doesn't cost us any, so we'll probably play that. And the Feet of Saints is also a faith keyword. Each hero within range reduces the AP cost of attack actions by 1. That is really, really useful, because I can use my attack cards and it won't cause AP to stack up on the darkness board. Finally, We'll grab our soldier, draw 4, put her deck back, and the Harvest of Bones. This is a really good one for multiple attacks. So the little black symbol would represent her, and she can attack 3 adjacent targets in a 90-degree arc. This attack affects 2 additional adjacent targets, adding 1 additional target per rage card played. Now what I haven't talked about is her ability to play rage cards. At any time, I can take from her draw pile, the pile that's face down, and take one of those off of her draw pile and move it to an action space, keeping it face down, and that adds 1 rage. And I can do that multiple times. And you don't see what that card is until you discard the cards from under the player board. So you're taking a chance of wasting a good card, but in this case, if I could stand in the middle of 5 minions like that, play 2 rage and harvest the bones, I can do a 180-degree arc and try and take out 5 at once. Which I don't think I would want to do in this case. I'd want to do it in 2 groups of 3, that way I have better chances to get treasure. And that's an action. It's an expensive one. Cost us 2 AP, but if we can play that Feet of Saints first, we'll be alright. And then we have an attack action we've seen, and Riding the Edge. This is another really good attack with a dash of 3. Attack all targets in a 3-square straight orthogonal line. You may dash 1 additional square for each rage card played. Again, that's where rage comes in. Cannot move this hero cycle, or cannot move again this hero cycle. So once you do Riding the Edge, you can no longer move. So for example, if I were to be standing here, cast Riding the Edge, I could dash through these 3, and as long as I'm successful, I would end up there right next to the Poison Dart Trap. This brings us into the refresh phase. Now that we're done with the hero deck phase, and the darkness, the AP will move up 1 for each active monster type. Currently, the Shamblers are active because I attacked them. Once you attack a monster type, it's active. So luckily there's only 1 type of monster out there, the Unholy, which is what the Shambler's type is. So this is only going to go up 1 to a 4. If I had not attacked the Shamblers, then I would have to check their threat range and see if they are activated because of my threat and their natural threat range. Since that isn't going to occur since I attacked them and they're already active, we'll wait to explain that in a later time when threat range is actually applicable and we need to check it. Next, we would activate any allies we have. We don't have any right now. We would resolve quest results. We're not doing a quest, we're doing a story, and we're in Act 1. Then we resolve status effects, none of which we have right now. For example, if we were poisoned here in the refresh phase, when we resolve status effects, then the poison would affect us. And then also, the next thing we would do in the refresh phase is to activate the traps. So the Poison Dart Trap gets activated, and luckily we have nobody within 3, so none of the heroes are going to get hit. And finally, the last part of the refresh phase is the cleanup. And at this point, if we had any additional items that were not equipped, we could go ahead and swap items out. You have to wait until the cleanup portion of the refresh phase in order to do that. We would also remove any fallen heroes from the tile at this time during the cleanup phase. They stay on there until the end of the cleanup phase because there are cards that you can play that can bring back heroes that are fallen. So you have a chance if somebody goes down to bring them back up if you have the right abilities and cards. Now, since we didn't make it to 6, the darkness didn't activate, we can go right into another hero cycle. As soon as this reaches 6, it'll interrupt our hero cycle, the darkness will activate, and then we'll go back into our hero cycle. The first thing I'm going to do is have the Acolyte play Feet of the Saints, and this is a Faith, and each hero within range, which is anywhere on the tile, reduces the AP cost of attack actions by 1, and again, that is great. It doesn't cost us any AP to cast this, and it's a reaction, so he still has an action available. And it's good for any type of move except aggressive. Also, I'll have the Acolyte play Blessings of the Dawn, and then each hero within range, which again is the tile, gains a number of fate die to attack actions equal to his faith. And right now it is actually 4. He has 1 base, Feet of the Saints was a faith, Blessings of the Dawn was a faith, and I forgot to say that the headgear, the Solace, also adds a faith. So any attack actions, you get 4 additional fate die. I'm going to have the Apprentice play Research, her ongoing card. So each hero within range may reroll 1 d10 once per hero cycle, and that's a range of 3, and that's a reaction. It is going to cost us 1 AP since that is not an attack action, so we can't reduce that by 1 down to 0. We're getting close. The darkness is now at 5. I'm going to go ahead and live a little dangerous. I'm going to use the Fingers of Aya for the Apprentice, and that'll be her action. That is an attack action that costs 2 AP. It's only going to cost us 1, but that's going to be enough to push us up to 6 on the darkness. But that uses a focus. So she can attack 1 target within range, and it's a range of 3. So basically, any of these 3 here, this one is kind of obscured, so I would not be able to attack any of these ones back here. So I think I'll start here. Yes, I'll start here, and then I'm going to jump to here and here with the ability. That way I clear a path to that poison dart trap. So she'll use it, and for each ongoing card cleared, so I'm going to clear the Sphere of Deflection and the Research. Cards that are cleared, as in the Research and the Sphere of Deflection, they're flipped face down, and they're not cleared until the hero deck phase. Cleared as in taken away, so they still take up the spots that they were in. Now we'll build our dice pool. We have our base dice that we're going to get, plus we're going to get 4 additional, thanks to the Blessings of the Dawn and all the faith. We're going to get 4 additional fate die. This is an attack, and we get to use our focus this time. The Fingers of Aya use a focus. We get to use the Demon's Bane. It's going to give us 2 additional d10 and 4 more fate die. So we have a ton of fate dice out there, which means we might be able to make that fate die recipe. Her Ring of Neria allows her to add another fate die for attack, so she's got 10 of them there now. So we're going after Shamblers, which have a armor of 4, so we need to roll a 4 or higher. And all these dice oh no, that just happened too. Look at that, a 1, a 2, and a 3. Is there anything I'm forgetting that can help me out here? Yes, there is something that's going to help me out here. Thank goodness I didn't move during this hero cycle, because if you look on the Fingers of Aya, not moving means I can reduce the target number by 1. So that 3 means I hit. That is a really good stroke of luck. And we managed to get 2 arcane symbols, which is going to activate that recipe on Demon's Bane and return any cleared ongoing cards to my action spaces. So those 2 cards that I cleared, the Research and the Sphere of Deflection, are no longer cleared. They're turned right back over, and they're still in play, and they're still ongoing. That's a great roll. Each of these attacks will do 1 damage. The first one's going to hit here, take that minion out. Then it's going to jump here, because I had 2 ongoing cards that I cleared. I got them back, but they still count as cleared for the Fingers of Aya. And he's within 2 squares. That takes that one out. And we're going to jump right over here and take out a 3rd one, which means we took out 3 with 1 attack. So we can take one of the treasures off of the darkness board and place it where the 3rd minion got defeated. Now that we have a treasure out, one of our heroes can move onto it and use one of their movement points to do a non-combat action and then pick that treasure up. Let's not forget though, the darkness has moved to 6 because the Fingers of Aya, which normally did 2 action points, but it was reduced by 1 thanks to Feet of the Saints. So it's still got to 6, which means the darkness will activate. So we'll draw our first darkness card. If the lair has not been damaged, well, we can ignore that because there is no lair. Then the lair does 2 damage to the heroes within 2 squares. Threat penalty. Hero's hand size is reduced by 1 for the rest of this act. We don't have to worry about the threat penalty. The threat penalty comes into play if one of our heroes is at threat level 10. And right now, no one's even close to being at 10. I did raise the Apprentice by 3. She's at threat level 3 because she took out 3 and did 3 damage there. And now we activate our minions. First we would activate the boss, then the mini-boss, the captains, and then finally the minions. None of these are there except for minions, so they're going to activate. There will not be a heavy spawn because there are no lairs to spawn from. So we have to just worry about activating the minions.